Hello everyone, I'm Na Meng, an assistant professor from Virginia Tech. Today, I'd like to introduce our recent research on classifying code commits with convolutional neural networks. This is a collaborative project with my student Zijian Jiang and my collaborator Professor Hao Zhong from Shanghai Jiaotong University in China. During software maintenance, developers usually commit a variety of program changes to software repositories in order to either fix bugs, add new features, refactor code, or improve code implementation, or merge the program edits from different software branches. In the figure shown on the left, we have the nodes to represent program commits in the software repository. The arrow lines show how software evolves over the time and present the temporal ordering between commits. The parallel lines show different software branches. It is always important to understand the change intents behind those applied program changes. Here are two reasons. First, for the developers who review the program commits tracked by other people, knowing of the change intents can help them better understand the program changes and even to pinpoint an issue within those changes. Second, for the researchers who study software evolution, knowing of the change intents can help them better characterize different types of changes and design better tools to automate the program transformation or to facilitate software maintenance. However, it is not always easy to obtain the change intents behind each program commit. Currently, developers mainly read code to manually infer the change intents. Nevertheless, such a manual process is usually challenging and time-consuming. There are project teams who adopt the issue tracking system, such as Jira, to explicitly document the change intents of some program commits. However, they don't record such information for all program commits. Furthermore, many popular projects, let's say Linux, even do not use any issue tracker. Although some developers explicitly describe the change intents in particular commit messages, there are still many commits whose low-quality commit messages mention nothing about the change intents. To help developers better understand the change intents, researchers built several machine learning-based tools to automatically infer change intents from the program commits. For instance, Hindou et al. And Tian et al. Separately extracted features from the program changes and the commit messages. Both research teams trained models with the extracted features using some traditional machine learning algorithms like SVM and decision trees. Jiang et al. And Loyola et al. Extracted added or deleted tokens from code diff files in order to translate program commits or translate code changes to the corresponding commit messages. However, all these tools suffer from two limitations. First, they all use commit messages to train classifiers. When commit messages are missing or poorly specified, the trained classifiers can work badly. Second, these tools treat co-applied edits as independent, although in reality, many of these co-applied edits are actually related. When overlooking the interconnections between co-applied edits, the existing tools can misclassify commits. To better solve the problem of inferring change intents from program commits, we leveraged the following insight. Intuitively, to fulfill distinct maintenance tasks, developers usually apply different sets of changes, and those changes are connected in specific ways. For instance, to add new features, developers often add new entities, like fields or methods, and then revise some existing entities to access those newly added entities. However, for bug fixes, developers often change existing entities to update the program logic. Based on the insight, we developed a new approach called CClassifier, which contains 3 components. Given a program commit, the first component recognizes both entity level and statement level changes and adopts a static program analysis to reveal any syntactic and semantic relationship between the co-applied edits. The second component models all extracted information in a graph, while the third component leverages a supervised learning approach to classify commits based on those graphs. Currently, our approach can classify program commits into 3 categories: bug fixes, feature additions, and others. In the following several slides, I will introduce individual components with more detail. The first component, given a program commit, CClassifier uses a program differencing tool called change distiller to compare the abstract syntax trees of programs before and after the commit. In this way, the tool can extract all the entity level and statement level changes. Based on the detected changes, CClassifier conducts a static program analysis to relate the detected edits based on 4 types of information: syntactic dependencies, control dependencies, data dependencies, and refactoring operations. In the following several slides, I will introduce each information type with more detail. First, syntactic dependencies. We consider an entity E1 to be syntactically dependent on another entity E2 if the compilation of E1 depends on that of E2. For instance, look at the commit shown on the left. Developers insert a field called new field and revise an existing method to access that field. In this scenario, we consider the changed method to be syntactically dependent on the added field, and the dependency relationship is established via the field access. Second, control dependencies. An entity E1 is control dependent on another entity E2 if how the control flows in E1 during runtime depends on the execution status of E2. Look at this example. Here we have 2 methods changed together, M1 and M2, while M1 invokes M2. For such a scenario, we consider M1 to be control dependent on M2 because the return value of M2 can control how M1 proceeds with its execution flow. Third, data dependencies. An entity E1 is data dependent on another entity E2 if there is any variable inside E1 whose value is set based on the execution result of E2. Look at this example. Here we have 2 methods changed together, P and Q, while Q invokes P. For such scenario, we consider the changed method Q to be data dependent on the changed method P, because there is a variable A inside Q whose value is initialized with the return value of P function call. Fourth, refactoring. When refactoring code, developers apply a series of behavior-preserving transformations to a code base in order to improve the software design. The tool we used, called refactor manner, can detect the 17 types of refactoring operations. Each of these operations added 1 or more entities. For instance, in this commit, the full function is removed from the class example4, but added to the other class example5. Such behavior-preserving changes are considered as a move method refactoring. We leverage this tool to detect all the refactoring operations in order to explain why certain edits are co-applied. And we hope such extracted refactoring operations can later provide signals for our approach to better classify program commits. To represent all extracted change data in a uniform way, CClassifier creates a graphical representation for each commit as below. in this graph, all the nodes represent the detected edited entities, and all the edges represent the syntactic dependencies between these entities. All the control and the data dependencies are represented as C attributes and D attributes attached to these edges. All the refactoring operations are represented as the R attributes attached to either the edges or the nodes. With the graphs model in this way, we actually cannot directly apply CNN in order to classify the original program commits accordingly. Here are two reasons. First, CNN takes images with fixed sizes. However, the graph models we generated actually have a variety of sizes. Second, CNN is good at classifying images based on arrays. However, our graph representation contains hash maps for nodes and edges, which representation cannot be easily converted to arrays. In order to overcome both challenges, we reused a state-of-the-art approach, PyJSON, to convert graphs to inputs processable by CNN. With this conversion, we obtained normalized graph representation for the original graph models, and then we feed all this normalized representation to CNN for commit classification. For evaluation, to train and test CClassifier, we created a dataset with the program commit data from 5 open source projects, together with the manual labels assigned to them by developers. And we extracted all these manual labels from the corresponding issue tracking systems based on the issue IDs actually mentioned in those commit data. With the dataset, we evaluated CClassifier with the 5-fold cross-validation method. In the within project setting, we evenly split the dataset into 5 portions. Then 4 portions were used for training and 1 data portion was used for testing. We repeated this experiment 5 times in order to get the average precision, recall, and accuracy across different runs. Similarly, we conducted the experiments in the cross-project setting. Additionally, we also re-implemented the state-of-the-art commit classification approach by Levin et al. To empirically compare our approach with that tool. Table 2 shows part of the evaluation results. Please refer to our paper for more details. As shown in the table, CClassifier obtains a slightly higher accuracy rate than the baseline when identifying the bug fixing commits. For the other 2 types of commits, CClassifier actually achieved a substantially better accuracy rate than the baseline. To conclude, in this talk, we introduced CClassifier, our CNN-based approach to classify commits without using any commit message. Its novelty lies in 3 aspects. First, in addition to extracting the code changes, CClassifier also captures various syntactic and semantic relationship between the co-applied edits. Second, CClassifier represents all edited entities and their relations as nodes, edges, and attributes in a graph. No prior work extracts such diverse information or encodes the data in such a compact way. Third, CClassifier adopts PyJSON to convert graphs to vectors processable by CNN. CClassifier is the first to repurpose this technique, PyJSON, for the commit classification scenario. In the future, we will further improve CClassifier by exploring the usage of other CNN architectures, such as residual neural networks, and we will also further improve the classification accuracy by CClassifier. This concludes my talk. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions?